I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Peace and safety to the hopefully elect, all the sincere Akim, scattered throughout the four corners, pushing his word in sincerity and in truth. For those who don't know, Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahushai is the name of the only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. This is another edition of Drop the Mic, and in this edition I'm going to drop the mic on that spaceship UFO doctrine. Alright, we know through the precepts, according to the precepts, the biblical interpretation of those chariots is referring to the angels. And I'm going to show you that in this lesson. Basically, that UFO spaceship doctrine is a doctrine of devils. Alright, and you have guys amongst the circumcision mating those doctrines of devils with the Lord's word, and that is not biblical. Through the so-called white man witchcraft, which is his TV, his books. Alright, he basically pushed that UFO spaceship doctrine, and you know, like I said, it's a doctrine of devils, but it was brought in by the will of man through these guys, basically these One West guys teaching that the Lord's chariot is referring to what you see on Esau social media. You have so-called UFO sightings. Like I said, through his TV, through entertainment. All right. He pushed that UFOs and spaceships coming from the heavens. But I'm going to show you through the precepts, the biblical interpretation of what the chariots of the Most High is. And this is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 31. And it reads, "And he shall send his angels." And this is what the chariots are referring to. All right, the angels. "With a great shout of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect." So this is how the Lord's elect is going to be gathered, not by UFOs, man. Like I say, that's a private interpretation, and it's not biblical. All right. So the angels is going to gather the Lord's elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So that's how the elect is going to be gathered. All right, the chariots, by the chariots of the Most High, which is the angels. Let's get another precept and prove that further. Go to the 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 10 and read the account when Elijah, the prophet Elijah, was taken up. So this is 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 10. It says, "And he said, Thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire." Now, according to the One West doctrine, this is referring to UFOs, spaceships, such as you see on the so-called, the way the so-called white man depicted. All right, but I'm gonna read the easy English, and I'm gonna give you a better understanding, a clearer understanding of what this is referring to when it refers to the chariots of fire and the horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into the heavens. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel." Not UFOs, all right? Not spaceships, all right? "And the horsemen thereof, and he saw him no more." So the prophet Elijah was basically taken up in the presence of Elisha, all right, the prophet Elisha. And he took hold of his own clothes and rent them into two pieces. Now what I want to do is read this in the easy English. In another translation, and show you what it's specifically referring to when it talks about those chariots. So this is the easy English, 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 12. And it reads, Elisha saw this. He shouted, my father, these are the chariots and the men on horses of Israel. And those men are referring to those angels that we read about in Matthew chapter 24 in verse 31. All right. So it says, my father, these are the chariots and the men on horses of Israel. Then Elisha did not see Elijah again. He took off his clothes and he tore them into pieces. So this is what it's referring to. All right, when it refers to the chariots that seem to be on fire, appear horses. They were pulling it. It went between them. Elijah went up into heaven in a strong wind. Elisha saw this. He shouted, my father, these are the chariots and the men, all right, the angels, all right, on horses of Israel. All right, so that's what it's referring to when you read it in the KJV. Let's see here. In the KJV, it says, Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel and the horsemen thereof, referring to the angels, man. All right, so now let's stay in the book of Kings and go to chapter 6. 2 Kings chapter 6 and verse 17. And it says, and Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young men, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. So now I want to read this same verse in the easy English. So this is 2 Kings chapter 6 and verse 17. And it reads, then Elisha prayed and said, Lord, open the eyes of my servant so that he can see the angels. All right, so that's the chariots of the Most High, the angels. All right, not UFOs and spaceships, man. That's a private interpretation of the scriptures. It's not biblical. All right, like I said, it's doctrines of devils that's taught amongst the circumcision. All right, and like I said, they're basically mating the so-called white man doctrine with the Lord's doctrine. All right, and the penalty for that is written in the book of Revelation 22 and 18. All right, because we're commanded not to add or take away from this word, man. So I'm gonna read that again. This is 2 Kings chapter 6 and verse 17. Then Elisha prayed and said, Lord, open the eyes of my servant so that he can see the angels, referring to those chariots. And the Lord opened the eyes of the servants, and he looked, and he saw that the hills around Dothan were full of horses and chariots. The angels, all right? The chariots seemed to be on fire. They were God's servants, and they were all around Elisha. So this is referring to the angels, man, and not what these guys at One West at GMS refer to as chariots, man. All right, now let's read it in the KJV. Stay in 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 17. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened his eyes, opened the eyes of the young men, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha, referring to the angels, all right, not UFOs, all right. So let's get another precept in the book of Luke, chapter 17 and 34. This is the book of Luke, chapter 17 and verse 34. And it says, I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken, and the other left. Two men shall be in the field. One shall be taken, and the other left. Now, I want to read this in the easy English and give you a clear understanding of what this is actually referring to, because these who are being taken, this is the deliverance, man. And it's not referring to UFOs or spaceships, man. All right? Let's read it here in the easy English. This is Luke chapter 17, verse 34. And it reads, I tell you this, at that time, two men will be sleeping in bed at night. The angels will take one of them, and they will leave the other one behind. All right, so that's how they're going to be taken, by the angels. The same way in Matthew chapter 24, the Lord is going to send his angels to deliver his elect. The same way in 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 10 through 12, the prophet Elijah was taken by the angels. All right, so it says the angel will take one of them, and they will leave the other one behind. Verse 35, two women shall be working together in the same place. The angels will take one of them, and they will leave the other one behind. And that's the chariots of the Most High, man. All right, not UFOs, man. Okay, not spaceships, man. All right, and basically that's the point. I hope you brothers was edified, and with that, I'm gonna say shalom.